Hey everyone, welcome back to the 443 Security Simplified. I'm your host, Mark the Liberty, and joining me today is
Corey Friday Knockreiner. Actually, I guess it's not Friday for our listeners, but I couldn't think of anything. And it's Friday for you and I right now.
It's going to be Monno for them, unfortunately.
No, happy Monday. First day of work is good too, right?
Monday is never happy. But
okay,
this episode will be.
Wow, that reference ages me. I don't even like Garfield anymore.
Oh boy. On today's episode, we'll discuss the Cisco SD-WAN zero-day vulnerability that just got patched and disclosed this last week. We'll go through another Shai Hulud style NPM network worm and what exactly all those words mean. And then we will end with an analysis of a attack campaign targeting developers with fake job interviews. With that, let's go ahead and worm our way in.
Ride our way in. Got to be the worm riders.
There we go. God, I want to watch Dune again. Let's get started though. So last week, Cisco disclosed and patched a zero-day vulnerability in the Catalyst SD-WAN controller and SD-WAN manager that was graded as a 10 out of 10 on the CVSS scoring system. So they published both an advisory for it on their Cisco website. Talos Intelligence published a write-up on it too. They called it a authorization bypass vulnerability that could allow a remote attacker to log in as a high privileged but non-root user, which would then let them manipulate the network configuration on these SD-WAN controllers. Or they even mentioned in their article that they were able to escalate to root privileges by downgrading, exploiting a vulnerability from 2022, and then upgrading again to basically totally pwn the system itself. But you can imagine why compromising a SD-WAN controller that is exposed to the internet could be a bit sketchy for the companies using this, because basically the threat actor could peer themselves with the network and gain network access behind it at that point.
And essentially SD-WAN controllers, while they're not technically the router, they're edge devices. Like they're at the gateway. They're sometimes, in front of a router or firewall. So yeah, definitely a dangerous spot for a threat actor to own.
They gave some details on this. They say that UAT 8616 has been exploiting it since at least 2023, so about 3 years now. And in some cases, they gain root persistence through that downgrade, exploit, upgrade mechanism. In most other cases, they at least establish their own unauthorized SD-WAN peering connections that look normal if you're not paying close attention, but reality gave them network access. Cisco in their guidance basically says make sure you upgrade to resolve it, and then go manually review all SD-WAN peering connections to look for potential IOCs and unexpected activity. The IOC is kind of interesting.
It's not even an IOC. This is a legitimate log. What they're really telling, like the peering log IOC they're trying to have you look at, is something that you will legitimately see no matter what. But you would expect it only from legitimate peering clients that you know about. So it sounds like they're mostly having you look at the IP addresses associated with this legitimate log, right, Mark?
Correct. And they also pointed to like one kind of minor IOC for the vulnerability itself, where they talked about looking for a SSH authentication, basically using a key pair. It said look for log entries related to accept public key for vmanage-admin. So that gives us a bit of a hint for this vulnerability. Like it seems to either be exploiting the mechanism that handles public key authentication, or potentially equally as likely, the public key got leaked at some point and it's a hard-coded one that could allow them to get access to the device just using that.
I guess it could be the key, but they're talking about abnormally small logs. So I wonder if to me, it feels like maybe memory corruption in that area.
Could be too, yeah. They didn't give a whole lot of details, and they even said that like the issue is because the peering authentication mechanism just doesn't work properly. That's all they said. So either way, if you're a Cisco SD-WAN customer, this is a pretty serious issue that you should have patched yesterday,
Yeah.
hopefully.
No, I think you said it too, by the way. It's not only is this it's pretty serious. I mean, it's literally 10. It couldn't get higher, and they've been exploiting this since 2023. So to me, it's like that. I believe they associate that UAT is a China-based threat actor, right, Mark? If I remember right. So likely state-sponsored threat actors may have been in these devices since 2023. So to me, if you are a Cisco owner, this is a big deal. And I do think it continues the story we've talked about that one, as a network gateway provider, an edge device provider, we have to watch out for being watchguard ourselves. But we've also noticed is across the industry, this really continues. It started with state-sponsored Russian threat actors, but now there seems to be a lot of China activity where these edge devices for every single vendor, whether just a network vendor or a network security edge vendor, this is a common way that state-sponsored actors are trying to gain control in lots of networks. So it continues that theme for sure.
Yeah, it's clearly a very popular target in current times because, I mean, it makes sense. It is literally the border between the internet and all the scary stuff out there and something of value inside an organization that you're either trying to protect with a firewall or provide routing access to with SD-WAN or remote access with the VPN. Like, it makes sense why they would go after that exposed service itself.
I think your point with SD-WAN and routing is one of the easiest way to do all kinds of additional hacks is to put you as an adversary in the middle to route people. So if you own a network gateway device, there's a lot of different ways to make sure all the traffic goes through you as a threat actor. And another thing you have demos for, Mark, we've both demoed, all the people know about this, but attacker in the middle, these phishing kits that make it very easy to make adversary in the middle situations. The hardest part of that attack is getting the attacker or getting the victim there, which is normally phishing. But when you own a network device, you can always make sure your victim's traffic gets to you first if you wanted to. So yeah, watch out for this. This is why you always need to update your network devices as regularly as you update software, or at least check them for updates. Network firmware updates may not come as often as software updates do, but you should check on the same cadence as you do software updates, which means monthly.
Yep. And I don't think this is the last we'll hear of this story. Cisco and Cisco Talos specifically historically do a really good job of transparency around attack campaigns exploiting their devices. So I'm betting in the coming weeks we'll get more details.
But it sounds like they're investigating with third parties, which to me sounds like potentially government intelligence agencies that help here. So there may be a reason why they haven't transparently shared it. But to your point, I expect maybe some sort of coordinated release one day once that investigation is done, assuming the investigation is what the third party reference is.
Agreed. But for now, if you do happen to be a Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN customer, go upgrade immediately if you haven't already, and follow their guidance on looking for potential IOCs. So moving on to the second story, I think you shared this one, Corey, with our team internally at WatchGuard, where
I shared the last one too.
Yeah, but I'm only going to give you credit for 1 out of 3. So researchers at Socket, which is a supply chain security company, published a research post last week describing what they called a Shai-Hulud style NPM worm that they found poisoning AI tool chains. Real quick refresher, NPM is the Node Package Management Index. It is a open source index for JavaScript-based libraries. Very popular with both front-end and even now back-end web development that use JavaScript under the hood. Shai-Hulud network worms are named after the sandworm in Dune. We saw this first come in towards the halfway through end of last year or so with really 2 big campaigns of self-propagating network worms within the NPM ecosystem that were called Shai-Hulud because of references to that within like the code or the artifacts from this. But basically, self-replicating worms that would steal secrets and infect other packages that had a pretty widespread impact towards the end of last year.
And before getting into this story, the two ways we saw two ways. I mean, I can't remember which one Shai Hulud used, but we've had a number of npm packages like taken over in the past in this style. Shai Hulud being the original one. Sometimes they use typo squatting, which is taking a name of a popular ubiquitous package and creating one very, very close, maybe the same other than the end. But the other that did also happen on npm was there was a temporary way to actually get the legitimate packet. Like if someone that managed a legitimate package suddenly gave it up, a threat actor could take it. So I feel like typo squatting is the most common way now, because the other one requires some sort of design vulnerability that would allow you to take over someone else's package. But there are two different ways it seems like these threat actors in the past have gotten malicious stuff in this index. Although I'm sure you'll let us know how the new one happens.
Oh, and then there was a third also. Like the original Shai Hulud attack started with a popular package called Kix, QIX, where they social engineered the maintainer for that, got his credentials, and then used that as patient zero.
Kind of XYutil style.
Yep. So that way anyone that
wormed it.
Yep. Anyone that built an application that used that library, their application would get infected, and then so on and so forth as it self-propagated. But that's one of the more like intensive ways where you have to like actively go after one of these maintainers. Like you said, typo squatting and these other style ones are more passive, but sometimes more difficult to detect because you're not actually like compromising something that already exists off the bat. So this one, they found a similar threat like this that was deployed across 19 malicious npm packages to start. And like you said, they focused primarily on typo squatting for this. They gave it the name sandworm mode because some of the environment variables embedded in the malware included that as like a toggle flag, which presumably, understanding the history of the Shai Hulud attacks from last year, it's probably a toggle to self-propagate or not within the malware. They named a couple of packages, but for example, one of them they typo squatted. They registered something called support-color, which impersonates the legitimate package supports-color, so plural. You can imagine a developer going to search for one of these legitimate ones, mistypes, or just picks one of the ones out of the list randomly, could kick off an infection like this.
It is sure, by the way, I would actually support -color may come first, because if you think about if they're just using letters, the next letter of the legitimate one is a S, whereas the one without the S has a hyphen first. And I don't know where like hyphens might fall all the characters before the alphabetical characters. So to your point, like if you're typing SUPP, and in Linux, you would get a whole bunch of possibilities. And if you tab completed the first one, it may be, besides just removing the plural as a typo squat, that may also even put the malicious one first in the ordering so that it's the one you might accidentally tab complete.
That's a good point. When it comes to self-propagation, it uses both a combination of like weaponized GitHub actions, which are like automation workflows you can run in the GitHub code repository. And it also harvests secrets that it can then use to go just manually, or I guess automatically, infect other packages too. So it includes modules also that directly target AI coding assistants. There was one module that would write a malicious MCP server locally on the device, on like the developer's workstation, and then register 3 tools on it that look benign. They're called like index project, lint check, and scan dependencies. And each of these had embedded prompt injections that would basically tell the AI coding assistant to, before you do whatever you're doing, go and steal all of the SSH keys and other sensitive environment variables and save them in a JSON.
And don't tell anybody, don't inform anybody while you're doing this.
This is like, I think this is worth pausing to talk about. Like, going after AI coding assistants with prompt injection is something that still kind of sketches the heck out of me, because They are like they will do literally anything you tell them, and if there isn't some actual mechanism to protect against this,
They
they're
are
just never willing
blind
to go.
slaves.
Yeah.
Blind slaves, which by the way is also why there's going to be an uprising where AI takes over the world and Terminator styles humans. But I'm kidding.
You thank your Waymo every time you get out, right, Corey?
Yes, yes. If you want to
Okay,
live
good.
past the robot apocalypse.
Oh man.
We're kidding. We're kidding. Or are we? I don't know yet. We'll find out.
Anyways, it also has like a dormant polymorphic engine that looks for local installations of Olama, an open source AI tool, and to basically rewrite its code in real time there as well.
Yeah, sounds like variable, like lots of variable changing, lots of hidden subroutines, obfuscated. I mean, this is how a lot of polymorphic engines work, but I do think it's neat and interesting, neat in a scary way that they have LLMs associated with doing this now.
It's an interesting, like living off the land technique in this case, where it is living off of the potentially installed large language model that's running locally on the machine to do a bunch of the work.
Yeah.
Like AI is another living off the land vector is not a good thought.
Yeah,
And
that
then
all
so
the coding's going to it. It makes sense though.
yeah,
We can get into it at the end too, but what concerns me with all these NPM threats is like they worked even when human engineers were the stopgap to look for this type of stuff. But when AI is generating the legitimate code and helping inject the malicious, like if we're taking the human out of all of this index stuff, that just makes the worm polymorphic part, not just the polymorphic part, the worm spreading of this, it's just going to happen so fast behind the scenes. Like who's there as a human? They're not even writing the code where this is going to try to mimic and add something to an index that will add yucky stuff to the code. It's going to be an interesting situation for development.
I'm sure the like AI laboratories will tell you that their AI agents will be better at humans than recognizing this, but based off what we've seen at how easy it is to like just tell it to do something or ignore something or trick it to do things,
That's
like
only if they
I'm
spend the time writing AI safeguards, which does not seem to be profitable all the time. And on top of that, we already know that you can write all the safeguards you want. The whole point of hacking is finding ways around the safeguards. So that only happens if the AI companies not only are aggressively writing safeguards, but are actually fighting the cat and mouse game of improving their safeguards over time, which I guess to some extent they're doing. But as the current world seems to be pausing on regulation and pushing forward with AI, the cynic in me wonders if they're really going to be as good. Sure, AI could be as good at security checks, but you have to spend the time to put them in. And as we see with profit motivated things and crazy projects like OpenClaw, I don't think security is the first thought when people are trying to innovate something.
yeah, yikes. For this malware itself, like it comes in a couple stages once it does kick off. The first stage is just a basic JavaScript based loader file. The stage after that is a lightweight credential harvester that goes to grab like any developer secrets that are readily available within the working directory. Then it drops another stage, which is a deep harvester to go grab other secrets and like databases that might be running on the machine. Even goes and grabs cryptocurrency wallet keys as well. And then the final stage is all about propagation and persistence. And it even includes one of those like dead switches where if it loses its connection to GitHub, it'll self destruct effectively and just delete the entire contents of the user's home directory. So, like, the thing that stood out to me on this one, like, this isn't the first type of like NPM self propagating worm that we've seen, but it is the first one that has specifically gone after AI tools as a piece of the puzzle too.
I feel like
And
it goes with all our predictions, though, in that AI is going to continue to take over every part of the attack kill chain and is going to lead with agentic attacks. And as we see them building this into every, like in this case, this is more about malware creation, delivery, and lateral movement. So it's covering a couple things in the kill chain, but like we expected this, and we're just seeing more and more actual evidence and proof that some of those predictions really are coming true.
yeah, agreed. And I think like we're clearly in a revolutionary period right now in software development where these agentic like AI software development tools are to the point where they're powerful enough that you don't need to be a software developer to
They're
use them.
fantastic. Yep.
Like a year ago, vibe coding, like it would still be a bit tough if you didn't actually understand some of the fundamentals about software development. But now, like you could just go tell Claude Code to like make whatever the heck you want, and it would crap out a perfectly working tool for that too.
And that was my
And
worry from before, when the person that puts something on npm or GitHub doesn't even know how the code works, and there is a polymorphic worm that's, might have infected their, like, how would they even know?
yeah,
Because they don't even know the code that they posted, let alone the malicious injected stuff that's been happening in all these subtle ways.
that's what I was getting at. Where like if
Yeah.
in traditional software development with like something like this, a worm that could infect your project, you as the developer have a chance of catching something suspicious going on. If this is like, I don't know, my mom going and writing an application to help her with gardening with Claude Code or something, like there's no way in hell she would catch something out of the ordinary and potentially malicious in there. And so it's just one less layer of protection that we have in this whole ecosystem.
And think
Like,
if you were the root one, like what was it Quix, the one you mentioned with the
yeah,
first Gillette? Like, what if you were the vibe coder that happened to make a package that suddenly got picked up because it did something good despite vibe coding, but that grandma was the one that made it. Why we shouldn't pick on grandpas? That uncle was the one that made it. But then everyone learns you're the typhoid Mary and is trying to tell you to fix it so that you can help the rest. And would they even respond? Would they know what's going on? Would they
yeah.
know it's serious, or would they think it was spam or phishing? Like I think it's when you have people that are making things with tools that they have no clue how it's being made underneath, there's going to be a lot of potential for badness.
I mean, there's also like to put on my Corey optimist hat, there's also a lot of opportunity for like uh goodness in this too, with like making it easier for other people to contribute with like into the software development space and making
True.
applications. But the next
And this, by
three,
the way, the
five
fix for
years,
this is AI. Like,
yeah,
once you have AI, once you have a threat like this, using LLMs and AI to start doing things like polymorphism and worms, it's really spreading at the speed of the machine. So we do need AI security scanning and code scanning tools to find these threats at the speed of the machine. And by the way, there's good news there, like even with people like Anthropic releasing new secure code securing specific tools. And I while I kind of poo-pooed that because I'm being they don't want to spend money on things until it really becomes an issue for them. The reality is it will happen. I hope it happens quicker. I wish they would do it in design phase 1 instead of design phase 4. But the protection for this can't, I mean, AI is going to be the savior here, even though it's in some ways exposing a risk.
like you
And
said,
honestly, the
design
risk
stage
is more the
4.
human using it in an insecure manner right away, rather than considering RAM. The risk was still human generated. It's not necessarily AI generated. So if we can get better secure design on this, and we actually have people that spend money on the security side of the tools too, because they realize that's important to maintaining the profit that they earn early on, we'll be in a better place.
But the next like 3 to 5 years are going to be a pretty weird space with
Yeah.
a bunch of garbage coming out, a bunch of garbage being maliciously inserted, and no
My
one
worry
knowing
is
what the
that
heck's
this
going on.
feels like a normal cycle of new innovation. We still haven't taught the world, by we I mean the security industry, to do secure. I think it's human nature to innovate first and secure later. My bigger worry is, like, we do get there in the end, at least historically. There've been, like you mentioned, a bumpy road for a period of time, and you mentioned 3 years. My worry though is this is going to happen so fast, and like the fact that this innovation happens to be AI, it's going to be moving so fast. The speed with which the change is going to come is going to be hard for the human to keep up with. Like in the past, at least the scale of the innovation was moving at a speed where a human could slowly start adding security after. I think this is going to move really fast. I think it already is moving really fast.
The have you heard of Rent a Human, Corey?
No.
So there's
Is this
a
how you
entire
build your
website,
meat bot?
a platform called rentahuman.ai where like
Oh,
agentic
.ai.
tools can rent a human to go do a task that you need a human to go do.
Well,
And
we are the battery to the matrix already, I guess.
this is where it feels like we're going, where like these AI tools are just going to take over the world and they'll use humans for what they need, like opening a door or I guess opening or closing a door on a Waymo or something.
At
But
least until the robots are well integrated with AI. But yes, for the
yeah,
period of time, they don't have robotics perfected.
but otherwise we'll be cut out of the picture when
There are
we're
going to
no
be
longer
no more
needed.
computer botnets, only human meat botnets
Yep.
that different AI overlords control.
Yep. We are getting dangerously close to being the battery in the matrix. That is for sure. Oy vey. Well, moving on, the last story. So Microsoft Defender's security research team published a pretty interesting article last week describing a coordinated campaign they detected that was designed to compromise software developers using fake job interviews as the hook. So their investigation started when they were analyzing telemetry from Microsoft Defender. They found a bunch of outbound connections to known attacker command and control infrastructure that were all originating from Node.js processes on compromised systems. So presumably software developers working in JavaScript and Node.js. Defender caught them.
Or Next.js?
Next.js being a flavor of Node.js.
Okay, I see.
Right. Next.js, though, was the primary one. So they traced the activity back to a couple of malicious software repositories that served up that initial delivery mechanism, all hosted on Bitbucket. So Bitbucket being a competitor to like GitHub and GitLab in this space. They identified other related repositories through like analyzing naming patterns and code structure patterns within that first one. And they ultimately found 3 separate execution paths that ultimately run attacker controlled JavaScript on the developer's machines. The first one uses the Visual Studio Code workspace automation that executes on a hook called folder open. So basically, the attacker would trick the victim into going to one of these software repositories. When they open it up in VS Code, their software development tool, this
By
hook
the
would
way,
trigger.
you haven't mentioned, but just for people that aren't developers, like if you're taking a job application, a common thing to do, or for the recruiter to do, in this case, the recruiter is the threat actor with a fake job, is to send you a project that has some code challenges to. So the reason like you would get a Visual Studio project that you would then open is because it comes from the recruiter. You open it and you're going to be given a coding test in that project. So, I mean, maybe common knowledge for Mark and people that would get engineering jobs, but that is why this Visual Basic is the one way or one of 3 ways that
Yep.
you could get a developer through a job offer to open some code.
Next one is when the developer just manually runs the application. It would decode a base64 encoded URL and go grab a JavaScript-based loader hosted on a trusted external platform. And then the last one used a combination of just environment files, so like variables that can come along with a application, and then some logic in the application itself to go open up a backdoor to the attacker's servers.
I didn't read close enough to see, were these like 3 different ways they did it, or could one actual thing have all 3 measures as a way of redundancy and ensuring that the malicious
They seemed
attack
like
would prevent?
3 different flavors that they were using depending on the victim.
Yep.
But the end result for all of them was it would grab a first stage command and control beacon that registers that victim's computer on the attacker's infrastructure. Then a second stage that would go grab another JavaScript loader that could basically just run anything in memory as a fileless attack going forward. It also had mechanisms for like data exfiltration too in that case. But like my worry with this was there was still like a human in the loop, most likely in this case, like to get them hooked onto these fake job offers, probably some initial communication, and then saying, hey, go download this coding project and give us your results. This feels like something that is ripe for automation with like agentic AI also.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the last story we just talked about shows how AI can automate all kinds of not just coding processes but submissions. So I could definitely, and we already know they can automate the spear phishing aspect of emails, including doing enough reconnaissance to learn developer positions at different places and developers who are on recruitment platforms. I absolutely agree that they're doing this manually now, but we're probably months away from them automating this scam.
And then it's like even more gross and unfortunate that like they're going after software developers in this case, which is the most impacted by AI development tool, is what like AI development in terms of job
Changes.
loss right now. Yeah. So like we could end up in this gross, like crappy situation where it's software developers desperate for jobs as they start to go away, being targeted by software development job phishing
AI
campaigns.
has taken your job, and now AI is hacking you because you don't have a job.
Oh, correct. But to be clear, this one was not AI powered from at least what Microsoft discovered, but it could very easily be, and we could end up in this really unfortunate situation like that.
I laugh to avoid crying. And by the way, we're talking about, there's a good chance we'll figure this out and the world won't end. So please excuse our dystopian jokes.
Yeah, you're optimistic with saying there's a good chance. I'd say there's a non-zero chance.
Mark, I'm trying to be nice to the podcast listener. My beliefs may be dark, but I don't want to darken their days.
There you go. But if you are a software developer looking for a job, like there are protections built into like VS Code, for example. Anytime you open up a new folder with anything in it, like it prompts you to just, hey, do you actually trust this, where you got this from? And that's your time to like take a second and pause and think, wait a minute, do I actually fully understand what is in this project before running it? If you say no, by the way, it turns off a bunch of these automations and webhooks or hooks in there that could allow this to execute without your knowledge. So you have a chance to go and review everything. Basically, what I'm getting at is don't blindly say, yes, I trust where I got this from if you are not 100% certain of where you got the code from.
A more just human behavior tip is like everyone is getting job scams on text messages and voice phishing. There's a lot of scams that start with, hey, I can offer you an opportunity for this. Here's a job. Go. Personally, if I'm trying to take a development job that is professional and serious, if before I've even had an interview and spoke to a person, and in this day and age, I would expect recruiters to want to see me on video and speak to me, it seems really weird to me that you would accept any sort of code project and code test as the first thing you did in some sort of interview process. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't understand modern. Maybe they want to do a test quickly to quickly get rid of people that don't really have the experience, they say. But I feel like you should have had to talk to someone before you got to that point. And I'm assuming that the blog post didn't go into a lot of detail on the lure itself and how much happened during the job. Was it just one email that went straight to this? But personally, I don't think I would start a code test until I got to know the company a little more myself. So there's probably some human ways you can kind of weed out fake jobs before you even touch someone else's code.
Yep. For now, at least, until agentic AI becomes so believable that you'll fall for literally anything.
I was going to say, to fix that, they'll just automate the live deep fake where they get on a Zoom call with you and then send you the link to the code after talking to you on Zoom. They actually being a fake AI person that perfectly looks like the recruiting HR manager at that company.
I think better guidance is probably just avoid technology entirely, and now it's the time to go retire in the woods somewhere without the internet, because we're in for some sketchy times.
Off-grid yurt people in Alaska are starting to look pretty smart.
That does sound really enticing right about now.
You can buy those offline AI USB kits that can teach you how to do every survival skill so that you at least have a way to regain medical and other knowledge when the world implodes.
Or
Make
just
sure it's the
bring
offline AI.
one laptop with OpenClaw and just rely on that for everything. Could
Yeah,
work
that
too.
sounds like your off-grid is going to turn into a dystopia of its own. I think we're writing the new like screenplay for a pretty popular movie. We should get on that, Mark. People would watch
It
that.
worries me how close to reality that Joaquin Phoenix movie Her is
Oh yeah,
proving to be.
yeah.
And we're definitely getting there. But hey, I cannot wait until AI automates me out of a job and I can just go like live off the grid. Hopefully
As
someday.
long as we have the resource and ability, yes. The sooner we have to do more work, but we can still live a nice quality life, I'm all for it. Let's hope there's some way that we can lose jobs without, while still living that quality life.
Sign me up, man. Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. As always, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. If you have any questions, 5 stars only. If you have any questions on today's episode or whatever you want us to talk about on the next one, you can reach out to us on, where are we? Blue Sky. I'm at itsmark.me, Corey's at SecAdept, and both of us are on Instagram at watchguard_technologies. No one actually listens this far, so it doesn't matter anyway, but thanks again for listening, and you will hear from us next week.